You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to this kind of classic Arnold episode. We've done Arnold before, we'll do him again. We're kind of a huge fan. We in fact have another one coming up in not too long. So, I don't know what it is about him, it's his charm, but this is also like another huge sci-fi movie we're doing. So it's really appropriate. I hope you guys enjoy it, etc. Enjoy. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, please join me and Cineprov at the Flesh Gordon show. It's going to be on Friday this time, which is unusual, of course, but same time, same place. I will be riffing on this show, so if you're interested in Flesh Gordon, which I wouldn't be if people weren't riffing it, come out. I'll see you there, and then afterwards we can get a drink around the corner. So without further ado, join us for Total Recall.
Hello, Questers. This is Mandy, the host of Caster Quest, inviting you to enjoy our podcast where we explore the rich and vibrant world of Patrick Rothfuss's best-selling fantasy series, The Kingkiller Chronicle, soon to be adapted as a major motion picture and television show produced by the award-winning creator of Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Hungry for more content? Perhaps you will enjoy our recaps of HBO's Game of Thrones, Over the Garden Wall, animated Batman films, or our world-famous erotic fanfiction reads. Whatever you're in the mood for, if you love a good story, humor, impromptu parody songs, and thousands of pop culture references, you'll enjoy our show. You can find Caster Quest on SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course, our amazing network, the Earth Station One Network, at esopodcast.com.
Welcome to My Different Childhood. This week we watched 1990's Total Recall. I don't know, Paul Verhoeven getting out some capitalist angst again, I guess. I'm Nick Hoffman, editor of Dude Letter and host of My Different Childhood, riff on Cineprov, and all-around greatest person ever. And on panel I have...
Jeremy. I'm Matthew W. Quinn, author of the teen horror novel The Thing in the Woods and a bunch of other stuff on Amazon too.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Yeah, man. We'd all seen this before, right? Had you?
This was my first time seeing it all the way through. Like, I'd seen all of it in bits and pieces on TV, and like even now, finally, for the first time watching it all the way through, I had indeed seen every single part of it, just not in order.
I have never seen it either. I've never seen it at all. I just remember seeing a picture showing someone's eyes popping out of their heads.
I mean, I think, Jeremy, more like you. I don't know when the last time, if ever, I'd sat down and seen the whole thing. This is the kind of movie that was like going to a buddy's house and watching like sleepover kind of up all night movie, right? For reasons other than like boobs for no reason. It's a 90s action movie. That's kind of what we watched. That and stupid comedies, right?
It's definitely on the cusp of, the end of the 80s, because it's still very 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at all the haircuts the women have. Yeah, very 80s.
Well, and it's a Verhoeven, too, so it's violent in a way that movies stopped being. I appreciate squibs, though. Like, people react to them, and there were a lot of squibs for no reason in this. It's phenomenal.
And every bullet hit a major blood vessel.
Well, it's better than now where, like, Stallone gets shot 1,000 times but doesn't feel it because they add it in CGI later.
Oh.
Right? Like, and so I appreciate that there's something there. So someone's, like, shoulder flings back because there's a little pouch of gunpowder that goes off on them. Mm-hmm. Right? It's an actual little explosive. So they react. Now, again, this is Verhoeven, and if you haven't seen RoboCop, they liquefy a guy in the first 5... Like, Murphy is torn to shreds in one of probably the most disturbing scenes in, like, mainstream cinema.
Yeah.
I said mainstream. I know. I visited your snuff room, but
The red room of pain. Is that what Jeremy has?
yeah, pretty much. And a Serbian film in Betamax. So
Extra sleazy.
extra sleazy. The metric system. Before we go too far, Mr. Quinn, would you like to give us a plot synopsis?
Okay, that's good. I can do that. The starts out with a man and a woman in spacesuits on Mars, and the man falls off a cliff. His faceplate is shattered, and the vacuum kicks in, and his eyes start popping up. Then he wakes up in bed with Sharon Stone, and it turns out he's a construction worker in near-future Los Angeles who wants to move to Mars, and his wife won't let him. So he decides he's going to get a memories implanted of visiting Mars from like a company that provides fake memories of experiences he's never had. Only then something goes wrong. He thinks he starts acting like he's a secret agent, and then his various people, including his own wife, try to kill him. And soon he's off on an adventure, not knowing what's real and what's not. And it's pretty cool.
Violence ensues.
Violence, lots of violence ensues.
Yeah,
Lots of exploding blood everywhere.
Yeah, and so I guess if you couldn't tell by our atrocious accents, this is also a Schwarzenegger vehicle and a Paul Verhoeven vehicle and a Michael Ironside vehicle. Like, you could put this same cast in any situation, and it's pretty much any movies from the late 80s through early 90s. And it's phenomenal. Again, this is kind of a classic, and like Jeremy said, it was on TV a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you saw bits of it, but that's kind of... It was like a TNT late afternoon kind of movie.
I don't know if it was HBO or Showtime or what, but I definitely remember the blood and everything. I think this is when I first learned the term human shield.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the guy who gets shredded on the escalator.
Yeah.
And then this would be followed up by what then? Demolition Man and Judge Dredd and The Running Man.
No, Running Man was before this, I think. Yeah.
No, I just meant on HBO, like on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. So the Saturday afternoon bloodbath.
the late 80s Reagan hour of, well, we just need to shoot them down before they can get to us. Okay, yeah, so we can get in from there. This movie is kind of based around the premise, well, we don't know what's real and what's not. The company Recall proves that you can implant memories, and so we don't know, as Matt said, if this is the fantasy that he asked for, where he wanted to go to Mars, date a woman with kind of frizzy black hair, because that was what was in his dreams, and be the hero of his own spy novel.
But is he a replicant, you think?
A replicant? No, I don't think he's a replicant.
It was a joke.
Man, I wish I could tell when you were making jokes. No, I mean, the whole thing is he doesn't know if this is a memory or not, and there's people throughout trying to convince him that it's not a memory. It's him still in the total recall thing, which is supposed to take 2 weeks, and 2 weeks comes up a lot. So it's kind of interesting. What do you guys want to talk about? You're staring at me blankly.
Okay, well, we can talk. Well, acting. Well, okay.
Acting.
Acting. Not about
Yes,
acting.
let's go to acting.
Let's do science. I like how they have Olympus Mons. The pyramid mine in Mars look like it's in Olympus Mons. We're talking like a old volcano the size of a continent, and it's got both moons. Thing is, Mars has an atmosphere. It's just not breathable.
Right.
So the vacuum wouldn't be an issue. I mean, everyone might start suffocating, but no one's eyes are getting sucked out of their head.
You know this from experience.
Yeah.
I'm
just
really
assumed,
a Martian.
I just assumed they were doing the airplane thing, where since there's a difference in pressure, you'd get sucked out of the plane. Right. I mean, that's why you can't get sucked out of an airplane. It would be bad. But, okay, so essentially the whole thing is there's supposed to be a mine on Mars in something they call the Great Pyramid, which is supposed to be Olympus Mons or whatever, where they've apparently discovered alien technology. This is where it gets real bullshitty. Where previously they had just been mining unobtainium, which is a magical material which creates oxygen and makes power. But it turns out that the aliens had developed a magical system, which Arnold Schwarzenegger's character may or may not have figured out, and that's why... Who's the other guy trying to kill him? It's not...
Cohagen.
Cohagen, played by who? Is that an actor I should know?
Well, Ronnie Cox is the big The big bad cop.
That means yes.
Yes, he
Ronnie
was the
Cox.
villain in Paul Verhoeven's previous film, RoboCop.
RoboCop. Him and the dad from that 70s show.
Clarence Boddicker, one of
Clarence
the best
Boddicker.
villains ever.
Oh my god.
Bitches, leave.
Just a bunch of balding white guys with like strong jaws and guns. That's all you need in the 80s. I love it. I love it so much. Is this better than RoboCop? This is better.
No.
RoboCop's the better movie.
RoboCop, I mean, there is in Total Recall the underpinnings of, like you said, the capitalist critique kind of, but RoboCop takes that to 11. I mean,
RoboCop is also much funnier. Like,
yes.
Like here you have some jokes, but like RoboCop has the commercials. RoboCop has the I'd buy that for $1, which is so stupid, but it comes back enough that it's a running joke, which is great.
Yeah, this movie had the black cab driver character, I thought was pretty funny.
Oh, he wasn't bad. The stripper, the midget stripper Thumbelina was pretty great.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
And it's good because she comes back, right? Everyone in a Verhoeven film has a role to play, and she's practically a character you'd write, Matt. So a little person with an Uzi.
Yeah, that book is not yet available, people, but someday.
That is a good point. There are no wasted characters in this. Like, even people that would seem like throwaway characters come back. Like his friend on the construction site who he asked about recall. Mm-hmm. He comes back and he turns out to be, a henchman.
Yeah.
And just, the first time you see Benny, he asks, do you want a taxi ride? And then Arnold Schwarzenegger just goes off and does his own thing for like 5 minutes and then comes back and there's Benny again.
Because I got 5 kids, man.
Yeah. I mean, and he even gets, ends up in what probably is supposed to be like 42nd Street before Giuliani. And, a little girl goes up to try to grift him and ask for, pretends like she can tell his birthday, right? And gives him, and so he gives her a couple bucks. Later, we see her suffocating when Cohagen cuts off the air. There's no one who doesn't come back in some way and matter. Everyone matters, which maybe leads to the fact that it's a dream. Right? Like, in real life, there are wasted characters. I'm not going to walk by the same checkout clerk 3 times in the same movie, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. Who'd have think you'd have... I mean... Chris Nolan stole a lot of this for Inception, is what we're saying. We were talking Chris Nolan during this movie. I feel bad for Jeremy when we do these because sometimes Jeremy actually wants to pay attention and we're just literally talking shit the whole time. When Matt gets into that mode, he checks his phone, but I'm making jokes to no one, and Jeremy feels obliged to make me feel like I'm funny, which I'm often not. So
this movie, I wasn't on phone mode very much, and I just was mostly checking on something I wanted to keep tabs on. If I wasn't really bored, this was pretty entertaining.
This was a good movie. Yeah. I do kind of miss this era of non-self-important action film. Like, there's something it's saying, it's doing something. It's not just violence for violence sake. But it also isn't like the later Expendable film where there's no joy left in them, right? There's still fun in this movie. Another movie we should do soon in the same era is Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, that's great.
Some of the earlier Woo movies are great like that. Yeah. I guess we kind of bottom out right around Face Off, which I think is fun, but it's literally the extremity of what this can be before it becomes stupid. Have you seen Hard Target?
No, I haven't.
It's amazing.
It has Jean-Claude Van Damme has his uncle. And who is that uncle?
Wilford Brimley.
Doing a Cajun accent.
Yes. Firing a bow and arrow, riding a horse.
Talking about diabetes.
He rides a horse away from a building that explodes. I mean, if that doesn't convince you to see it, I don't know what does.
I had a shotgun, but a gator ate it. I love this movie.
It's so good.
I mean, this movie has stupid shit in it. Like, he has a tracking chip that's apparently up his nose that they can scramble by wrapping a wet towel around his head.
Around the top of his head, not his middle of his face.
Not around his face like a balaclava, no, on his head like a turban.
And then he pulls it out with like a screwdriver. And it's painful to watch, I'll give him that.
The effects on this are great. They're all practical, and it's just...
I'm going to pull a giant Christmas light out through my nose.
And I mean, and the little touches here or there are all great. Like you said, there's squibs in the ground. Like everything explodes in blood. When he gets eventually to Mars, I mean, spoilers for a movie that they remade really shit. Did you see the remake?
Yeah.
Is it joyless?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well,
kind
it
of
was
what
in theaters for like 2 weeks, and then they shut it down, didn't they?
Well, I think they were blinded by the fact that the remake of which one came out first, Dread or RoboCop? Dread.
Well, Dread imploded
Dread
too.
came out later.
So was it RoboCop that came out first? One of them did well.
It's RoboCop then because
RoboCop did
Dread
decently.
because
Okay.
Dread and Total Recall both of them failed monumentally so quickly they're out of theaters in like a month or less.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I wanted to do this, not because this is some big anniversary, the 28th or the 28th anniversary of this movie coming out. But I just when that remake came out with Colin Farrell, and I was just like, he's not the kind of person who should do this. It's a stupid movie. It's like Running Man. Like, it should come from the fact that it's so over the top that it's entertaining. And he's just not the guy to do it. Chris Pratt is the guy to do it. I know that's terrible.
If I was still posting on the message board, I could do an alternate history. You know, what if Chris Pratt in Total Recall remake? Of course, it did so badly, it couldn't have done worse.
And I mean, A, you're not wrong. It couldn't have done worse. B, he's already remaking shit he shouldn't be remaking, which is the Jurassic Park movies. Technically, they're sequels, but they're structured the same. They're not very interesting. I saw the first one; it was fine, and now they're tempting me with Jeff Goldblum. I'm gonna have to see it because it's fucking Jeff Goldblum. And I don't wanna see it.
Give in to the temptation.
The only scene is what's in the preview.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
How much would you pay to see 15 minutes of fresh Goldblum?
Fresh Goldblum.
Well, we had pretty much got that in Thor Ragnarok. So.
And that was great.
Yeah.
He was good in Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok. Why remake movies from the 80s? I'm sure there's some other bullshit that Philip K. Dick wrote that you can do.
Well, no one is doing anything original these days, even though there's plenty of original stuff out there. Hint, hint, Hollywood, buy my book.
He's going to make the same stupid joke. Thank you, Matt.
Buy my book. Buy my book. All you need to do is just cock a gun on the speaker, and that'd be perfect.
I'm really surprised you haven't gone to like Hollywood and even do script doctoring at this point. Because put your money where your mouth is, man. Do it. But talking about this movie, Mars itself, I think, looks okay. It's filmed inside of, like, the beginning part is this concrete jungle stereotype. You're right, I think it's set in LA. It looks like all the 70s and 80s horrible architecture of just endless concrete stairs and intertwining kind of visual distances. When they get to Mars, it looks actually kind of impressive. It's bright red, it's dingy, it's dusty. The inside looks kind of like an industrial hellscape. It's really awful. And they kind of wander this world that clearly is a very built set, with the exception of possibly the Hilton. But you have this, I don't know, this dump that he goes to visit, which is essentially like a red light district, a stomping ground.
I think it's Venusville, and one of the places is called the Last Resort.
Anyway, yeah, man. So what else? What else piqued your interest, Matt?
Well, they're talking about selling the people air and marking up the price just to make more money off them. They kind of need air. But the thing is, I'm going to economics teacher mode here. It's very hard to, I'm trying to think of the wrong. There's words here saying it can't be something that can't be duplicated, and it's restrictable.
We sell
it ties into-
water.
Yeah,
We'll find a way to sell air.
The thing is, there's public areas where you can't keep people from going if they don't buy the air. You could maybe cut off an air supply to an individual's house.
Well, I mean, but the idea is that this is an old factory town, so there's nowhere to go, right? Because you can't go outside into Mars. Mm-hmm. And if he controls all the property and all the land and all the mines, he can cut off the air to whomever he pleases, and he clearly doesn't mind killing people. That's the idea, right?
It's supposed to be a company town
Yeah.
to the 11.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is supposed to be. I mean, which is, they make very clear, he owns everything, right? That's why he can cut off power to an entire, he calls it a sector, but it's, a few city blocks.
Thing is, it's not, you were talking about being a company town, but they don't call it mining companyville. It's a federal colony.
No, they did. It was not a federal colony.
It says Mars Federal Colony on the screen a couple times.
I thought it referred to the guy. I thought it referred to the guy.
He could be the governor, maybe. I mean, he could be doing the boss hog thing where he's the mayor and owns all the property.
Phil Air. I'm trying to figure this out. But someone's going to correct us. If I don't.
Phil Air.
That's funny.
We could sing a song.
Don't, please. I left in the last couple songs. You guys are going to eventually regret singing.
Highway to the danger zone.
And you guys sang the credits to the Addams Family too, which
Ba-da-ba-dum.
recently.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Come on, go along with me, please. Don't do it by myself. It's weird.
Anyway, what we should talk about is Quado and the rebellion, because we haven't talked about them at all yet. So there's a rebellion going on called, I don't even think they're given a name, actually. But the whole notion of it was that they're trying to overthrow this company which controls everything and is mining the town until whatever, right? Until it collapses. With that in mind, they are led by a psychic by the name of Quado.
Not Watto, not a junk dealer with wings.
No, it is Quado. And
His name is Quatu, and he loves to get blotto.
Oh.
I apologize for that.
that
If only I
is,
was a little quicker, I could start freestyling and go along with it.
that was from The Simpsons. He was not, in fact, freestyling. Yeah, so regardless, what ends up happening is Quado is the psychic in charge of this rebel group that is trying to overthrow the company and question mark
And free the air.
and free the air. This is the plot of Spaceballs.
But
So
sadly,
Melina
there was no
goes-
combing of Mars.
Well, if Melania is what? She Princess Valium or Hooker Valium?
It's Milana. Melania is the name of the president's wife.
Sorry, Donald. This one's better looking than your wife.
That's funny. His address is. I'm kidding. But yeah, so Ronnie Cox is pissed off because his good buddy Hauser has gone away, and that's or Hauser. Hauser, go.
You're getting to a major plot point there.
Yeah. So the question always is, who is actually? I almost said Donald Trump. Who is Arnold Schwarzenegger really? Is he this construction worker named Quaid? Is he a guy named Hauser who is talking to him through the video we see earlier in the film where he pulls the thing out through his nose, and later is in a video with Ronnie Cox pretending like they're best friends? We don't actually get to the answer of any of these things. This movie, based on a book called Those Who...
We can remember it for you wholesale. Which is along in the weird Philip K. Dick titles like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
The answer, yes. But yeah, I don't know. I think this kind of gets to it. It was going to be made by Dino De Laurentiis and Richard Dreyfuss. And then Patrick Swayze. And then Cronenberg was attached to direct, which is where I assume they got Quado from.
Yeah, a lot of body horror in this.
A lot of face vaginas. And William Hurt ultimately ended up wanting to be in the lead role, and then they dropped him.
He eventually did Altered State, so he's happy.
When the adaptation of Dune went to the box office, De Laurentiis lost enthusiasm for the project in any sci-fi movies. Doesn't surprise me. This movie was the most expensive film ever made at the time at $65 million, and it netted $260.
I'm sure adjusted for inflation, Cleopatra was still higher. I think
possibly.
that cost somewhere in the neighborhood of like $300 million.
Yeah, that was huge, and there was 2 billion extras.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know, man. We're struggling because it's a good movie, and we don't have a lot to talk about. It's weird. It's fun. I don't think it's the highest quality movie we've done, but you don't get much more fun than this movie, where Arnold actually freaks out a little bit in a way that Stallone never really does. Like, Arnold, I think, is the most fun of the action movie stars of the 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah, I think he's definitely self-aware. I mean, he knows he's not a great actor. He knows why he's being hired for these. He's got the muscles. He can beat people up. And, the occasional one-liner, yeah, but, I mean, he's never going to do Shakespeare. I mean,
No, and he knows it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
But frankly, that's the problem with Stallone, where he thinks he's going to be doing Shakespeare, and he wants to give himself these incredible lines, which when he delivers don't sound like anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth, right? With the exception of the first Rocky, he just shouldn't do these things.
Yeah.
And it's worth thinking about because there are a lot of movies. It's why he can pull off something like Jingle All the Way, which is a shitty movie, but kind of funny, and no one else should try. I am Turbo Man. Give me the Turbo Man doll.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll never be accused of, reaching beyond his grasp. And that's why I think he's lasted so long. Because, I mean, you can never be disappointed by an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
No.
Dream the impossible dream, man. Shoot for Shakespeare, Arnie. Go for it.
I mean, he's been in crap, but it's generally not his fault. Like, look at the later Terminator movies. He was still Terminator in all of them. Like, it's not like he played it any differently than he did in Terminator 2.
No.
And Terminator 2 is a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
So it really down to the other people who kind of ruined the movie for the rest of us. I do like to see him in sci-fi though, because it's clearly things he doesn't really understand but doesn't care.
We found the one fan of The Sixth Day right here.
Oh my God, I forgot about that shit.
That's time for another episode of Myopia.
Oh my God, that thing.
No, we're not doing that one.
We're not gonna do. I was gonna pull up his filmography, but I'm sure it's 1,000 things long, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've even seen what's that? His bodybuilding movie.
Get Pumped or something.
No. Get Pumped is his masturbating movie. Oh my God.
Pumping Iron.
Pumping Iron, thank you. 77, Pumping Iron. But we've done several of his movies already. We've done Conan. We've done this now. We've done... I know Kindergarten Cop we talked about doing. I don't think we actually did it. We've done the Batman and Robin, which is bad.
We need to do Predator.
Predator, I think, is coming up later this year.
Yes.
And we've done Commando, too, which is also awesome. Commando might be his best move. Like, in this genre, I think that might be his best.
That's probably like his ultimate 80s movie.
Yeah, totally. Where there's explosions for no reason.
Wanton violence, one-liners, no plot, just let's kill everything.
I didn't want to do this, but now I have to kill you. God, I mean, and just, End of Days, 6th Day, Collateral Damage, gross, all of them. He was in Junior, where he was nominated for, he won a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical.
Oh, God.
For Junior?
Yeah.
That's the one where it's a pregnant man, right?
Yes. Twins was the one where he was just Danny DeVito's twin, which was weird, which is a weird movie. Wow, Schwarzenegger got 15% of this movie's gross. He made a shitload of money.
Oh, yeah.
He might, for a while, he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. And we will ultimately do True Lies and Last Action Hero. I'm going to call it now. True Lies is awesome.
True Lies is amazing. Yes.
Last Action Heroes is stupid, but still kind of fun stupid. So I guess we're to the end here pretty much. We'll start with you, Matt. What do you think? Final thoughts?
I thought it was pretty entertaining. It was rarely, if ever, boring, and most of the stuff that I had some issues with were just, really petty, like, the climax of the movie involving some sort of alien reactor that could transform Mars. I did get to have a nice Dune joke in there. And so Paul Muad'Dib saved Arrakis. And you have to see Dune to get it, and I'm not going to go into more for spoiler reasons.
We reviewed the episode already. It already came out.
Basically, they set off the reactor, and it causes Olympus Mons to start belching oxygen to the point Mars gets an atmosphere in like about 5 minutes. Just like in the end of Dune when Paul becomes emperor and he makes it rain.
I watched that with you not a month and a half ago, and I don't remember any of that shit.
Don't explain the joke.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I just literally I don't remember anything about Dune other than being bored out of my mind.
It might be for the best, Nick. It was boring.
It was very boring. Thank you, Matt. Jerry, what do you got?
It's a really good movie. I think it's the last true 80s movie in terms of the excessive violence, the one-liners and things like that. It's high concept, but at the same time, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Really, it just wants you to have fun with it, even though there is a lot going on, but that's just in the service of making things go quick. Just go in, have fun, and you'll love it.
Yeah, man, and just building, I guess, finally, this is just about the kind of the apex of his kind of ridiculous career. He's doing some more fun things now, but a lot of it's weird rebooty stuff that I'm not a big fan of. So I think the fun part about it is rapidly ending. So movies like this are where I go back to. Running Man, this. I can't watch Batman anymore. That one's terrible. But, Terminator 2, True Lies is a lot of fun. Last Action Hero is stupid. It's really stupid, but it's kind of fun. So these are the movies I think I'd go back to. And he's in that era where everyone did everything. So there's the kid movie where he's in a kindergarten cop. That one's stupid. He does Jingle All the Way, which is the comedy Christmas movie. That's stupid. I just kind of enjoy these over-the-top movies because they don't make them like this anymore. The closest you get kind of are the Fast and the Furious movies. But there, everyone's invincible, so it's really dumb. Here, he's kind of like a god come down from heaven, fighting for all of us. And this movie doesn't really have an ending. You don't know whether it's true or not. So I appreciate that. However, I'm not going to give too much away here. This is a nice and easy one. Your hint for next week. This is based on a TV show that we already mentioned once in this episode, so good luck with that. So tune in next week and every future week when we put another piece of your past on trial. Thanks, guys.
Myopia Defend Your Childhood is a member of the ESO Network and produced by Blue Letter Podcasting. It is hosted by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nick Hoffman and Candace Burns. The theme song is Caroline by the Serenaders, and their music is available on Amazon. Please rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. And tune in next week when we put another little piece of your past on trial. Thanks!
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek, classic, current, and beyond. Part of the crew at ESONetwork.com.